Well, hello and welcome to volume 12 of Drink the Music. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, we've been covering a lot of albums, right? We've done 11 of these Drink the Music volumes so far. But a couple weeks back, I received in the mail a very unsuspecting package that had a record in it, and that record was "The Dance" by Fleetwood Mac. It didn't have any sort of return label on it, didn't have any sort of guess like packing slip to it. It just showed up out of nowhere, but I thought it was my sign from the heavens, and the heavens being you, I guess, that we needed to talk about Fleetwood Mac.
Yes. I mean, I can confirm that somebody close to me thought that you should definitely have this album because it's amazing. It's comprised of all the things that we love here at Drink the Music. First of all, it's an album. It's a musical
True.
album. Um, the dance is a concert, and we love live music here at Drink the Music. And
We do.
so I thought it had one of my favorite kind of renderings of a song that is actually on the Rumours album. Full disclosure, quite a bit of songs from the dance are also on the Rumours album.
True.
Um, but I really thought that it would be something that you would enjoy. And
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the dance was not something I was familiar with. And we're actually going to be talking about the dance over on our Patreon, www.patreon.com/drinkthemovies, because today we're going to be talking about Rumors. Now, that is an album that I'm familiar with. Kind of the quote unquote Rumors lineup here for Fleetwood Mac is something that most people who are at least kind of into music are pretty familiar with. They had the couple of albums, the Fleetwood Mac album, and then Rumors being kind of the pinnacle of their time together, and Tusk and stuff like that. So kind of this lineup of Fleetwood Mac is what I think probably most people think of when they think of Fleetwood Mac, right? They think of this Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham kind of led sort of thing here in terms of the group Fleetwood Mac, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Rumors, one of the all-time great albums. So Michaela, who is Fleetwood Mac up to Rumors? This is a very long and complicated story. So of the 18 people that have at one point or another made up the band Fleetwood Mac, including along the way there were some LSD benders, fake Fleetwood Mac allegations, affairs, internal band affairs, and even a member of Fleetwood Mac disappearing from the band on tour to go join a cult. That happened. There's a lot of crazy stuff here around Fleetwood Mac. So this is going to be my effort to boil it down to the five pieces that we get on Rumors. I can't talk about all 18 of those people. That's too
no,
much.
that's fine.
That's too much. That's too much. All right, so we're gonna have to go back to 1967 London. Peter Green of the Blues Breakers, along with bandmates Mick Fleetwood and John McVie, go into a recording session and record a song called Fleetwood Mac. Now, following this, Green and Fleetwood want to form a new band alongside of McVie, and they would call the band Fleetwood Mac, for Mick Fleetwood and John McVie. I do think, on a side note, it's interesting that if you're Peter Green, you're like, hey, I want to have a band and I'll name it after you guys, so come be in it, please. They were going to call it Fleetwood Mac, right, to entice McVie to join them, but McVie says no, not interested, wants to keep the steady paycheck with the Blues Breakers going, but is going to ultimately join those two gentlemen shortly thereafter. Can't resist the enticing tunes of Fleetwood Mac for too long, I guess. So the band's second studio album, titled Mr. Wonderful, comes out, and it's featuring a horn section this time around and a keyboard section, which is helmed none other by Christine Perfect. Now, in 1970, Peter Green leaves the band, and Christine Perfect, who is now Christine McVie, who married John McVie, is going to join the band full time. So now we've got Christine McVie, we've got John McVie, and we've got Mick Fleetwood. In 1974, the band hears Buckingham and Nicks perform. They like what they hear, and they ask the duo to come join the band, and they do so in 1975. Well, technically on New Year's Eve, 1974. So that's all five now, I think, right? So Buckingham, Nicks, McVie,
Yep.
McVie, and Greenwood. They put their first studio album out. It is the 10th or the 11th album for Fleetwood Mac, depending on who you ask, because there was one that was potentially a compilation live album. So some people consider that a studio album. Some people don't. So like I said, 10th or 11th there. And this is going to be self-titled Fleetwood Mac. which they also had already done a self-titled album called Fleetwood Mac. So we're going to refer to this as the White Album, which is what most people do, the 1975 version, not the 1968 version of the same name. 2 years later, after this Fleetwood Mac album, Rumours would be released, and that is what we're talking about today.
That was beautiful, Brian.
It took me a very long time to pour through the histories of Fleetwood Mac.
And this is why Brian is the cornerstone of all Drink the Music, Drink the Movies stuff, right there. Because I have loved this band probably since I was like 13 years old, and I could never have been that concise. There's no way. So good on you, honey. Great job. But this album, this kind of second 27th album that they've created,
album, yeah.
This I don't want to say it catapulted them, because Fleetwood Mac was already real famous at this point, and there was a lot of things riding on this album. There was also a lot of things happening personally and professionally for all five members. There were divorces, there were affairs, there was a lot of cocaine, I think. There was some dark times, there were some light times. They were fighting and talking to each other while they were making this music together. And so it's one of these things that when you listen to this album, number one, you should definitely listen to it the way Brian listens to it. Listen to it from the beginning all the way to the end. You're gonna know probably 80% of these songs because they were all hits. All of them were like mega hits, which hasn't happened very often. We've talked 11 other times about albums in Drink the Music, and 11 other albums, and many times it's been one or two things that have kind of caught the eye of studio executives and pushed out as singles. This entire album has had immense success. I think maybe only one song where we're going to say didn't make it into the top 10 or something like that. So really special. And I guess that all of that crazy hard drama, with the group was the perfect cauldron concoction of amazingness, because it has made this album it is consistently like the top 100 albums of all time, and I can't wait to talk about it song by song.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to be breaking through the songs, and it's important to remember when we get into the music here. Just keep this in mind. These people absolutely hated each other when this album was released. But you know what? They didn't hate. You know what we don't hate is a good cocktail. So let's do this before we get into the track by track here of Rumours. Let's go off, take a break, and we will be right back to whip up this week's drink.
So, Brian, when we were looking for drinks, cocktails for the Rumours album, there were a couple that came to mind. Some were a lot more complicated than others. And one of the things that you found, which really made me feel very, very loved, I got to tell you, is you found a drink called Songbird, which is one of my favorite songs of Fleetwood Mac. It's hard to have a favorite, but it's one of mine. And it has all my favorite things in it. It's got gin. It's got elderflower liqueur. It's got a maraschino cherry. It's got this really beautiful herbal liqueur of green chartreuse. If you have it, great. If not, I guess yellow will work. It's got all the things. And so it was like kismet that we were doing this and that we found it. And by we, I mean you. So thank you.
That's right. Yeah, this cocktail called the Songbird, it comes from Kindred Cocktails, and it's paying homage to that song, Songbird. That song was written by Christy McVie, who unfortunately passed away just this past year. So we'll be drinking this in homage to her as well. Let's mix this up, Michaela. It's pretty simple if you've got these ingredients around. Into a shaker tin, 1.5 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of elderflower liqueur, Saint Germain being the notable one there, 3/4 of an ounce of herbal liqueur. Green chartreuse is what it's calling for. Now, I think you and I both went with yellow chartreuse because green chartreuse is hard to come by. There's some rumors. Michaela thought that they had stopped making it. I had thought that green chartreuse was just a seasonal thing that you can only get nearer like the Christmas holiday time. So if you have some of that, go for it. If not, I think the yellow is perfectly fine stand-in. again, the flavor difference between the two is not huge, I don't think, in my own personal estimation. So 3/4 of an ounce of that. If you don't have either of those, feel free to use whatever kind of herbal liqueur you want, any sort of Fernet. You could probably even use something as crazy as like a Jägermeister, and you're going to get something that's going to look a little bit different, but it's still going to be an interesting kind of flavor combination, I think, there, in terms of using various herbal liqueurs. 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice into your shaker tin with some ice. Shake that and strain it into a very, very well chilled cocktail glass, and then you're going to garnish it with a maraschino cherry. So, Michaela, I made this. I took a sip of it and I said, this is boozy. I would really like for there to be an ice cube in here, I think, to melt a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know. This is pretty strong. And then I kept sipping it and I kept going down this journey that I was with Fleetwood Mac of all of the fighting and all of the magic that got created. And I thought, this cocktail is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it really is. I think you're right. I think you may want to shake it in that shaker tin for just a touch longer than you maybe normally would to get a little bit more ice melt in there. So make it a little bit more palatable when you first take a sip, because it is boozy. It's very big. It's a very big flavor when you first dip into it. But it mellows out, and it just kind of creates this warm feeling, which the album does as well, even though, and we're going to talk about it, right? Because when you first jump into this album, you're hit with a lot of different emotions. You're hit with a lot of different sounds that were new to me, at least. And I think it all kind of melts down and creates this beautiful concoction. And by the time you're done with this drink, you're either too buzzed to care, or you genuinely really like it. It just grows on you really well.
That's right. Absolutely. So give this one a try. It was really good, and really did a good job of paying homage to the song Songbird and kind of to this whole album, or to the album as a whole. So give it a try. Let us know what you think about it. But now, Michaela, we need to take a quick break so we can get ready to talk about one of the all-time great albums, Fleetwood Mac's Rumours. So let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, so Michaela, Fleetwood Mac Rumours, it comes out in 1977, and by all accounts, it's one of the great albums of all time. We're going to get into that in the album break. But I have to say, track number 1, Secondhand News, this is my least favorite song on the whole album. So I guess it's good that it is getting out of the way early. There's a super like fuzzed out guitar comes in and out like from nowhere, like throughout the song. It just keeps coming out, which is something that Lindsey Buckingham does in all the songs that he wrote pretty much. He's like, oh, remember, I'm the guitar player. Here, let me go with that. This was originally titled Strummer before Buckingham, brought forward the lyrics to the song because he didn't want to upset Stevie Nicks, because all of his songs are about how much he hates Stevie Nicks and all of her songs are about how much she hates Lindsey Buckingham, and kind of all around the band there. So he's holding back the lyrics because he didn't want to upset Stevie. And he also apparently recorded a new bass line when John McVie was on vacation. So no wonder this band hated each other, and they were explosive off stage as they were on it.
They sure were. So I gotta say, gosh, man, you're way better at this than me, Brian. Because I'm like, it's a real good song. No, I gotta say I started listening to this for the purpose of the podcast, right? And I actually like the song. The song's not bad. It's nowhere near as good as all of the other songs that are on this album. And they kind of put it at the front, and I don't understand that. I'm like, they should have just knocked this off and put it in, I don't know, Mirage, because, or Tango of the Night or something later. They should have done that. This felt like a lagniappe at the very beginning. So like, if you don't know what that is, it's a little something extra is what that means. So like, if you're going to a restaurant and they give you like, I don't know, one single salsa chip at the beginning of your meal, that's kind of what this felt like to me, which is like, it's not bad, but like, what is the point? And in retrospect, looking at this as in contact with the whole album, it seems completely out of place. It doesn't sound anything like any of the other songs. And again, I love this band. And I love Lindsey Buckingham. So I'm not calling the song at all, but I do find it really interesting. The story of how these songs came to be is almost as interesting as like what we think about the songs in and of themselves, because you're right. Yeah. He like showed up and was like, guess what? I got this song and how that had to have been recorded where they're just, they're looking at the lyrics going, are you kidding me right now? And it's very famous that Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks have this love-hate relationship. They've managed to perform and maintain some sort of relationship as friends for I don't know 50 years now. So God knows how they've done it. But this was not their best week. This recording session.
Yeah, it was not the best week, and the song itself is pretty good once it gets into it. But there's something very jarring about the way that it kind of like, I don't know, it's like a horse gallop here of this guitar strum that kind of comes into
lamb,
it.
Lamb, 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 lamb.
It just sounds kind of strange. But that gets us into an absolute banger. Song 2, Dreams. This was the only #1 single by the band here in the United States. And it's kind of Stevie Nicks' version of Lindsey Buckingham's breakup song, Secondhand News, I guess. So apparently when Stevie Nicks presented it to the band, she had to really push hard to get it onto the album because no one else really seemed to care for it. I like the kind of pairing here of Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie's kind of call and response through the pre-chorus section, and then the way that the drum hits in the chorus. Thunder only happens when it's raining, and they're hitting those cymbals there to coincide with that thunder. I think sounds really good construction here on this song.
Yeah, this song, I remember hearing it. I was probably 12. And I totally thought this was about taking drugs and getting high at like in the 70s at like a party.
I think most of Stevie Nicks songs, I think you could probably interpret that way if you really wanted
maybe.
to.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, look at her. She's like the quintessential 70s babe, right? She was petite. She had these really sweeping, like in all of her concert stuff, she had these really amazing kind of like garments that like hung loose, and she was just this gorgeous blonde siren who had this angelic, like when she hits the high notes and saying it's only me who wants to wrap around your dreams. Do you have any dreams that you'd like to
fairy-esque?
Yeah, like fairy, witchy, kind of just really hot, real hot.
Wood nymph, any of those things.
Any of those things. But I really, as I got older, I was young when I first heard this. So I was like, it's all about like drugs and getting high and like feeling this feeling of being high. And then I got a little older and I thought that this is exactly what it's like when you are in love or in love with a performer. And it's a great answer to the Secondhand News, right? The only good thing about the fact that Secondhand News is even on this album, I feel like, is that the answer is Dreams, where she's like, yeah, you only loved me when you were playing. It's only me. It's only Stevie freaking Nicks who wants to wrap around your dreams, dude. What is wrong with you? So good. So
that's
good.
Right.
And I love the wailing of the guitar. Oh, I could talk about the song for 20 minutes. I'll stop.
Yeah, absolutely. So following up to Dreams, we got Never Going Back Again. So we're going to continue down the path of Buckingham's breakup with the Nicks. This is a Buckingham song here. We'll get this finger-picked, breezy, kind of carefree sounding song. Minimal lyrics here, which is also a recurring theme in Buckingham's music here, where the guitar is doing, kind of a lot of the heavy lifting here. Apparently, the acoustic guitar he was playing was being restrung every 20 minutes throughout the entire day. To get that crisp, clean, precise sound, which sounds like an absolute nightmare. As someone who plays the guitar very poorly myself, my least favorite guitar activity is restringing it. So doing it every 20 minutes sounds like that would do my head in. Been down 1 time, 2 times, never going back. So says Lindsey Buckingham, which is a lie because they kept going back a lot of times and it kept ending roughly the same way, I think.
Yeah. This is like we are never getting back, right? It's the idea that for whatever reason you are inexplicably drawn to this person and it's not the right thing. It's not good for either of you. And this, you're resolved, you're resigned yourself. You're like, I'm never doing it again. When we all know that that's not true. I mean, yeah, we all know that that's not true. So I don't know what the solution was for this. Apparently it was to continue to make tons of music and money together. And that's fine. It's great for the world. I hope it was all right for Lindsey Buckingham, because I think he wrote a lot of songs about the darkness that he felt during this time. And, he left the band, I think in the 80s. And then they all kind of came together in the late 90s again. And he talks a lot about this album being kind of this breaking point for him as far as he was coming into his own as a songwriter, but he was also really in a dark space in his relationship with alcohol and drugs. So I really love the picking on this. I think and I can be wrong, that's fine, but I think Lindsey Buckingham is one of the best guitar players I've ever seen from an acoustic perspective, from an acoustic pop perspective. And the reason why is, if you ever see him play, he picks with like his pinky as well as his thumb at the same time. And maybe that's like a normal thing and I've just never noticed it, but I am shook when I hear some of the arrangements that he does acoustically, because this song sounds almost Renaissance-ish because of the different kind of like a lute, almost. Especially at the very the dun 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 dun, like when he gets really high, it's effortless and it's beautiful. And
Yeah, it sounds like there could very well be, several guitar players playing on this song. But yeah, it's all Lindsey Buckingham. He's an incredibly accomplished guitar player. And, we'll kind of talk about, the importance of Lindsey Buckingham going forward as we go into the future career endeavors of Fleetwood Mac here. Don't Stop, track number 4. So this one is a Christine McVie song. She writes this about her divorce with John McVie, who's right back there playing bass guitar behind her. It feels a little bit more amicable and upbeat than the first 3 breakup songs, I will say. It has kind of like this chanting sort of tone that progresses with McVie and Lindsey Buckingham's vocals. So at the time of this song, Christine McVie was dating the band's lighting director. So Fleetwood Mac could be a fictional band in your favorite soap opera, basically, is the way that these love affairs are going. The band reunites after a decade to perform this song at Bill Clinton's inauguration in 1993. Then they reunite in 1997, got along for a bit, but then would need another 17 years apart before they got back together to play this song. And this was kind of one of their songs that they would lead off a lot of their concerts with here, Don't Stop. But yeah, this one's a really good one. It's obviously, kind of one of the hits on an album that's pretty much full of hits. This is one of the ones that people think of when they think of Fleetwood Mac songs, I think.
Yeah, it is definitely the most hopeful, I think, of all the songs on this album, which is a shame because
it's the most hopeful FU song on the album,
right?
For sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's weird because I always thought, given this song and given some of the other stuff that Christine McVie kind of has put together and created, that it was a lot more amicable. Maybe it wasn't. I mean, we don't know, right? Like, this is all us listening and making our own stories up. But I feel like it's a much better way to say goodbye than maybe Dreams or Secondhand News. Sure. I'm just saying, you want someone to not stop thinking about tomorrow. And it's like, look, if you thought I was bad to you, just think, there's tomorrow's another day. You can go find somebody else to be bad to you. It doesn't, hurt or whatever.
Right.
I really love the Christine's an amazing piano player. I really love kind of the chords are really strong at the beginning, mixing with Buckingham's guitar. And I really like the, I guess it would be called the bridge. Where he has kind of his guitar solo. It is iconic. And it, they do it. I don't know. When they do it in concert, it's really cool. Everybody, it always feels like a really great way to send off and say goodbye to a band that you love. So which is what they're doing. I guess she's saying goodbye to her husband, right? As a husband.
Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of the songwriters here, McVie, Nix, and Buckingham, who are also, the singers in the group, have kind of their own sort of feeling. And I think I make mention of this a little bit later, but you brought it up here, Michaela. Christy McVie seems to be the most kind of mature of the 3 storytellers here in terms of that and the way they're handling these kinds of things, I guess. And that gets us to Go Your Own Way, which was the first single from the album and one of the 500 greatest songs of all time. So says Rolling Stone. It was 120th in 2010, but all the way down to 401st in 2021. Breakup is the theme here again. Buckingham choosing to let the guitar tell his tale as much as the lyrics here. Dare I say, possibly the most well-known of the Fleetwood Mac catalog. Probably could be. I think so. And it's interesting to me because whenever you hear this song, you hear the song a lot, whether you know it or not. Whether you're listening to it on the radio, you're seeing it in a movie, you're seeing it on like, or you're hearing it in a movie, you're hearing it on a commercial, you're hearing it on the radio, and in any context that they ever use it, it's almost always this joyous exploration piece, right? Setting off on your own adventure. But that's not what these lyrics say. These lyrics are scathing and bitter. You can go your own way and call it another lonely day. That's what you get if you leave. Lonely day.
Yeah, yeah. Bye. This was like a bye Felicia,
Yeah.
way before there was a Felicia, I think. But Felicia had not been born yet.
Bye,
Maybe
Stevie is what it was.
bye Stevie. Yeah, it's interesting again, because the lyrics totally belie what it sounds like. And somebody actually, I was at a wedding once, and somebody actually wanted this to be like a song at the beginning of their wedding when they introduced the couple, and they were like, "It's so great because we're going our own way." And I was like, "That you should listen to the lyrics to that again before. I mean, you do what you want, but maybe." Listen to it. Starts off with "loving you isn't the right thing to do." So I don't know, guys. Maybe think about it a different way. But it's again Buckingham doing his amazing guitaring,
Mm.
and the fact that they all are on the background vocals is really interesting. Because again, I love to think about how they created this album. Where like I'm just envisioning Buckingham coming in and being like, "All right, you know that fight we had last night? I wrote about it. Here you go." Like,
Yeah.
and Mick Fleetwood is in the back, like drumming his little heart out, like, "Oh my gosh, this is horrible." Like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's kind of the interesting thing here. All of these songs basically are, looking at these relationships, and then you're asking, the person that you're writing about to sing the song or perform the song, which is wild, which is, no wonder why the tumultuousness here between the band. And that's going to get to us to our cocktail inspiration here, Songbird, Michaela. This is the beautiful piano ballad of the album. Christy McVie writes, plays the piano, and sings to an empty auditorium of 15 microphones, picking up her vocals, while Lindsey Buckingham plays an acoustic guitar off stage. So it sounds a little bit more muted compared to the piano, and it helps him not lose the rhythm of the song because his rhythm and Christine's rhythms are very different. Whereas Buckingham's breakup songs sound jaded, Nick's sound more flowery and dreamy, McVie's sound more mature to me. I wish you all the love in the world, but most of all, I wish it from myself. That's a very mature way to look at a breakup, Christine McVie.
Yeah, yeah. I really love this song, and I don't I love this song. I love that it sounds empty to me, because of the way they put it together. She seems
Mhm.
like she's in a very big hole, right? Like singing this, and it's very sad, but it's also so filled with this, like you said, adult mature idea of what love is, because you absolutely think at the end of this they are not together, they're not going to be together, whoever she's writing about. And I love to think that this is her goodbye song, to John McVie, that it's,
Mhm.
we, and I love the idea, the way she's kind of layered it, in that, I wish you all this love, I wish it's going to come from me even though this ends, but the love doesn't really end. And I truly think that if you really love somebody, that doesn't go away. It doesn't mean you get to live together. It doesn't mean you get
Right.
to, make it, but you can always love them and want them to have this amazing life, even if you're not in it and not able to kind of take part in it. I think that's the best definition of love in a lot of ways. So I think this song is really special. And one of the things that, I want to say is this version is, well, one of the things I think is really interesting are the covers of this song that have been done over the course of time. Eva Cassidy did an absolutely beautiful cover. And then Christy McVie herself, at the end of the concert, the dance, it's not on the album, but she knew that she didn't really want to be in the band anymore. And so she sings this song as a kind of an encore, to say goodbye to everybody. And it is haunting and beautiful. It sounds completely different because it's on stage,
Hmm.
with just her in a piano, so it's not that muted sound, but it's still absolutely gorgeous. It's one of my favorite love songs of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's very telling. I didn't write this down, but I'm going to assume that this is true. This is the softest and most delicate of the songs, and it's the only instance here on the album where the subject of the song is not being asked to play or sing alongside of the song. So I
Yep.
think that, that's kind of telling there. So let's take a bit of an album break here and talk about Rumors kind of as a whole, Michaela. So Fleetwood Mac have been around and fairly successful for a long time, kind of up until this point, but not anything like this, right? So the 1975 Fleetwood Mac album, it hit number one here in the United States and ultimately would go on to sell 7 million copies, which is a big deal, but not anywhere close to what Rumors was going to accomplish, just a couple years later, being very much the top of the mountain here for Fleetwood Mac, selling 21 million copies here in the US over the course of its lifetime and releases. And it's roughly 40 million copies sold worldwide, which makes it, as of what I saw, the sixth best selling album of all time. It won the Grammy for Best Album in 1978, and Fleetwood Mac were introduced to the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2003. Rolling Stone currently has it as number seven on its top 500 list, top 500 album of all time list. And this grouping here, the Rumors, Fleetwood Mac would make five albums in total before Lindsey Buckingham would leave the band in 1987, followed shortly thereafter by Stevie Nicks. So yeah, it was very much of like a flash in the pan, but they did perform together for about 13 years, which is kind of wild to think that you think of Rumors and you think of it as like I said, kind of the top of the mountain, and the albums after this were still successful as well. Tusk and Mirage, and the other one, the name is eluding me at the moment. But it's interesting to think of this collection of songs, basically being about the turmoil and the tumultuousness of this group of people, and that they still carried on, like their art kept them together. And we're going to see the instance of that when we get back to the album. But Michaela, this is one of your all-time favorites. You've loved Fleetwood Mac as long as probably as long as you can remember, and definitely as long as I've known you. Fleetwood Mac has been your jam. So tell everyone your kind of history with Fleetwood Mac, I guess.
Ooh. Yeah,
It's as convoluted as the history of Fleetwood Mac
it's
itself, ladies and gentlemen.
probably probably.
I don't know
So
if there were any
my
cults involved, but
Colts. Yeah, no Colts, no Colts. No, my dad taught me to play pool when I was real young. I was about 5, maybe 4. I could barely see over the pool table when he took me to play pool, and the first time. And we moved to Montana. And sorry, we moved from Montana to Texas, and I was about 9 when my parents finally kind of gave up the ghost and split up. And so I remember I lived with my mom for a little while. That did not work. So I lived with my dad, which is not normal, and it was kind of strange. But I will never forget, there was a random Tuesday night, and he came out of the kitchen and he said, "Hey, want to go play some pool?" And I was like 9, and I thought, hell yeah, I want to go play pool. That sounds amazing. And so he found this bar. It sounds like a bad thing, but he found this like pool hall bar that was family
mhm.
friendly. I don't even know if they served alcohol because I never saw my dad drink at this bar. We always had like cherry cokes together. And he would let me have like 10 whole dollars, and he'd let me go and pick whatever music I wanted off of the jukebox. And it was back in the day when CDs were like a thing, right? And so you had maybe 3 or 4 choices off of every album. And I remember Rumors being on there. I remember Tango of the Night being on there. I remember the White Album being on there, as well as a bunch of other stuff, right? And so interspersed with things like, Pearl Jam's Jeremy and things like that, I also got all of these songs that I have now come to really love. And
Mhm.
so it's really that's how it started for me. And I didn't know enough about things, but I was pretty young. But I really loved the Rumors album, and my dad made me a cassette And we would talk a lot about some of the lyrics, because as a kid, I was not in, I wasn't playing an instrument. I really loved to sing, but I wasn't able to play anything. And so music theory was never my strong suit. So we would talk a lot about the lyrics about these songs, and like what it would be like what it was like to make this music and write these songs, and poetry and things like that. And so that's really where it began for me. And it's so crazy to think that this album is what, 40 years old now. 48 years old. It's really old, and it's been around, but the music sounds just as crisp to me as it did when I was really young.
Mhm.
And the relationships that are still there. I mean, this is a band that has lasted, like you said, there are 37,000 people who made this band up over the course of time, but these five people managed to make some music that is still really perceived as amazing today, and is really meaningful, and they're still they up until Christine McVie's death, I mean, they said that they were still really friends even through all of the stuff, which is just amazing to me. And so that's one of the reasons, I think that's some of the many reasons why this album kind of means so much to me personally, is it's very nostalgic. It reminds me of my dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And as an album as a whole, it's absolutely, you know, kind of this I don't know, tumultuous like work of art where you can feel and hear all of the tension of it, but there's something magical about the way that it comes together. And sometimes, art, especially in music, is, created at its best when there's tension and feelings of ill will there behind it. And I think that that's pretty neat. Myself, I was never like huge into Fleetwood Mac. Obviously I knew the bulk of the songs off of this album because everyone does really, but I never really gotten into the album as a whole until more recently, probably in the last, I don't know, 5 or 10 years or so. So it's been fun for me to just kind of go in, and then doing the research for this particular episode, kind of leading me down the rabbit hole of different iterations of Fleetwood Mac has been something interesting for me to get into as well. And then, into kind of their live performances, which we're going to be talking about on Patreon here in just a little bit. So let's get back to the album. Michaela, I'd mentioned, kind of the tumultuousness. So let's just get into it. The Chain. If you crank up the volume here at the beginning, like literally crank it up, you can hear, I'm assuming it's Lindsey Buckingham taking like a really like deep breath into the microphone. You have to really crank it up to hear it. And I'm guessing that's to kind of, ready himself to start playing the guitar, ready his voice, and to ready himself to be a part of this song, which is probably the most collaborative on the album between people who at the point that they're recording this aren't even speaking to one another. This song encompasses everything that Fleetwood Mac was, everything that they could be, everything that they hated about each other. The chain, right? Very metaphorical there, keeping them together and weighing them down. The song is almost like a lyrical argument that the band is having with each other. The cymbal crashing in this song reminds me of like plates or wine glasses being thrown against a wall, kind of in this fit of rage. Buckingham's guitar solo sounds like car tires screeching away from this place, and I think that sounds amazing. The Chain, one of the best songs around.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely, as you said, it really brings this idea that even though they don't get along, they create this amazing music together, and they create this amazing art form together, and everybody is in on this. So you have every member of this band had to be intrinsically involved in the creation of this song to make it what it is, and it is so crisp and perfect. It's a great I don't know, it's a great look at that invisible like thread that brought them all together, and the lyrics are great. If you don't love me now, you will never love me again. And it's like, well, I may be real mad at you, but there's still some sense of love and friendship between all of them in order to keep them around. Maybe it was millions of dollars. Maybe it was lots of cocaine. I have no idea what it was, but whatever it was, it worked because they went on to play this multiple times in concert, and it's amazing in concert. I really loved listening to this the couple times that I have seen Fleetwood Mac live. It just gets better and better because they all know their parts. They anticipate each other. It's fun to watch them look at all of each other on stage where they're throwing out these words of like venom. It's great.
Mhm.
It's all great.
Yeah, absolutely. It is great. That gets us to track 8, You Make Loving Fun, which has much more of a 70s disco vibe here. This is a Christy McVie song, and it's about her relationship with the lighting guy. Remember, I talked about the lighting guy a little bit ago. Here is the
You
song
did.
all about him. She apparently told John McVie that this was a song about her dog to protect John's feelings, which makes me wonder about Christy McVie's potential relationship that she had with her dog. There are roughly 300 instruments here in this, by my estimation. There's the Fender Stratocaster that Buckingham's playing. There's tambourine, electric piano, clavinets, drums, acoustic guitars, effects pedals. And once again, you get McVie's more optimistic sounds here in this love song about a man that is currently working the stage lights on her husband, her ex-husband.
Yeah. Oh, drama. I mean, man, they need to make
No
this
wonder
into
you
a
love this
series.
album. No wonder you love
Yes.
this. You love a drama. So
Shut up, Brian. You're not wrong. But yeah, okay, you're right. You're right. I didn't quite know that he was the lighting guy like during this album making. Holy moly, that's amazing. But I really do love this song. So this song reminds me of my dad and his wife Patty, my stepmom. I will never forget watching them dance around. We were at a company picnic. They'd been dating for a long time at that point. So I think they might have been engaged at that point. I don't know. But my dad heard it came on the jukebox and he was like, hey, want to dance? And they just kind of bounced around and danced together in the middle of this company picnic, just like a couple of kids. And I really love that. How great is it to, when you're first falling in love with someone, to think that you're making this so much fun. This is so great. You're so wonderful. You know, not believing in miracles and then having this be something that's happening. It's so great. It's also really interesting to me that Christy McVie was like, oh, this is about my dog, to spare John's feelings, because again, that is not what what Stevie and Lindsay would have done. They would have been like, this is definitely about you because you never made loving fun, you piece of work. I hate you. This lighting guy is way better. So I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Much more mature. Christy McVie she was the only adult, I feel, in this entire band.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. Of the songwriters, at least. So let's get into track number 9, I Don't Want to Know. So this was written by Stevie Nicks before her and Buckingham had joined the band. The story goes here is that the band recorded this song without her knowledge, and then they had her come in after the fact to record her vocal parts. She only agreed to having this song on the album because she wanted to make sure that she had another writing credit on the album. Because they were pulling Silver Springs, a song that we're going to talk about on the dance, off of the album. At the end, it was a little bit too long, I guess. You say you love me, but you don't know. If this was the song she wrote before the breakup, I guess that is pretty telling.
Again, this song, it's kind of it belies the meanings, right? So you hear it and you're like, oh, it's kind of this, I don't want to say rockabilly, but it's got this I don't know, rock and roll edge to it. It's kind of
Mhm.
muted with Buckingham's guitar, but then you listen to the words and you're like, oh, this is not good. this I don't know, you're bobbing your head to this person being like, I don't think you love me that much, really, and I'm really in love with you, and this is gonna hurt. This isn't good. And I don't want to know that you don't love me, maybe, but this limbo really sucks. I mean, it brings out all of these feelings that you're having, and in this, and then you're bobbing your head up and down and like tapping your foot to this beat because it's very rocky. So yeah, I really liked the vocals and the way that Lindsay kind of has the same mutedness that he did in Secondhand News. And I don't know
Mm.
if that was by design or not. They're different songs, and for sure, but like the way the vocals kind of sound like he's far away from the microphone, it worked for me in this because it's a little bit more muted and dull sounding. rather
Yeah.
than like sharp and edgy.
Well, it could be in the way that they'd recorded it as well. I'd mentioned, that, they basically recorded it without Stevie Nicks' knowledge or permission to record it. And I guess Lindsey Buckingham,
Right.
sang his parts and Stevie Nicks' parts during the recording session. And then she came in to record it after. So it would have had a different sort of
Yeah.
vocal clarity and quality, probably just being her versus, the whole band there in that situation. So, yeah, good observation there. And something else that's going to turn a little bit differently than the rest of kind of the songs here. We've got Oh Daddy track 10. This is McVie again, but it's a much darker tale this time, right? The other ones were pretty upbeat and positive. Oh Daddy's much darker here, but it's definitely a deeper, more mature songwriting style than again, kind of the other bandmates that were writing the lyrics here to this song. It's a lot less playful and positive than something like You Make Loving Fun, because this is a tale of forbidden love, right? Maybe Oh Daddy should have come before You Make Loving Fun. I don't know for sure. But the song is really good. This to me, it sounds like a song that's almost grappling with addiction as much as, kind of this love triangle sort of thing that's going on here. I don't know, specifically about Christy McVie here at the time, but most of the members of the band, from what I've seen, have said that, the drugs and booze were flowing pretty heavily during this time. So I think you could probably make the case that, some sort of addiction here was possibly on the table, and kind of this double meaning, at least I'm picking up here in Oh Daddy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's hope she's not actually talking about a daddy. But I think that's code for a drug, maybe. I mean, that's how I took it. So I totally agree with you there. Um,
Mhm.
some of the lyrics are really shaking to me. Why are you right when I am so wrong? I'm so weak, but you're so strong. Everything you do is just all right, and I can't walk away from you, baby, if I tried. That um that doesn't sound like an incredibly healthy relationship with a human. It certainly doesn't sound like a relationship with a drug or an alcohol substance. That
Mhm.
doesn't sound very healthy. But it's also um, really, I don't know. I really wanted to not like this song because the daddy part really bothers me. I just got to say I don't like it. But the rest of it I really found pretty compelling. Didn't this wasn't a correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I don't think this ever made it out as a single. It's one of the lesser known songs on the album. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that's probably why, because people would kind of not know what to do with some of this. Um, but I really, again, it speaks to Christy McVie's like just the essence of her genius in writing and the fact that she can be the voice of reason, but that doesn't mean that there isn't this darkness that she's also experienced, and it's just a little bit of a different kind of kind of inner struggle maybe, rather than um, the what we see right front and center in some of the other songs.
Exactly right. And that darker tone and messaging is going to continue here to our last song on the album, track number 11, Gold Dust Woman, which is my favorite song on the album. So we start with my least favorite, we end with my favorite song on the album here. It has this little phased electric harpsichord and slide guitar through it, which sound really cool. And Gold Dust Woman here, it's definitely piggybacking off of the dual meaning, I think, in Oh Daddy. Nicks is singing about another woman and drug-fueled jealousy. Stevie Nicks has also gone on to say, gold dust is definitely referring to cocaine. So there you go. The song goes like completely unhinged by the end of the song. Like it is unraveling real fast, which sounds amazing. And to me, like this song, Gold Dust Woman, sounds like what like being in that room with these five people recording this album must have felt like.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. The lyrics, did she make you cry, make you break down, shatter your illusions of love? And now tell me, is it over now? Do you know how to pick up the pieces and go home? Go home. So good. Really, I mean, you could just imagine how, how I'm going to collect a thought in a minute. You can just imagine how palpable both the chemistry and like the anger and the jealousy that they felt. This is a very famous song for Stevie Nicks to actually have like a gold shawl that she wears when she does this in concert and performs this. She has had a couple of gold shawls. I was lucky enough to see her put the original one on once when she was in concert,
Mm-hmm.
holes and all, because it was like 40 years old at that point. But she gets so angry, and at the end when she kind of says "go home" and her voice kind of echoes, it sounds very different now because it's been 40 some odd years, but that's the beginning kind of this descent into hell. I feel like for the music, you feel the lyric, the kind of the guitar licks really pick up and get more kind of palpitating, like your heart's beating faster and faster. You think that this is going to explode. It's really amazing how it kind of descends into madness. And at the beginning, it's this very like dusty, dark, kind of a beat driven with the drums kind of talk. But at the end, she's basically screaming. It's really a spectacular journey. And this song's long. It's like 5 minutes long. And so it's something definitely that you're going to sit with. And it's a interesting ending to the album.
Yeah, like I said, I think it kind of leaves you in the place where the band was, through the recording of this album, which I think is really, really interesting and really neat, musically and artistically. So that is the album. Rumours is a we talked about as one of the great albums of all time, and we've talked about a little bit of our history, and you'd alluded to it a couple times. So before we sign off, Michaela, you have had the chance to see Fleetwood Mac in some various compositions throughout your lifetime. Do you want to talk on those briefly? And then we're going to be talking about The Dance, which was a live performance that got this particular group, these 5 individuals, back on stage to do kind of this broadcast television recording thing. I think was for MTV, and then a subsequent tour that followed. And a lot of people thought that was probably the last time that this group of people were going to get back together. And in a lot of ways, it kind of was. But what about your experience here with Fleetwood Mac live in the flesh?
So I got to see Fleetwood Mac a couple times. First time I think was in like 2005, 2006. And it was right when Say You Will came out, which was their studio album that they created after The Dance. And that was amazing. And then I saw them again, probably 10 years after that, maybe 8 years after that, something like that. And both times it was incredible. I have a great story. I don't know if I should share it here or if I should share it at The Dance, but I've met Lindsey Buckingham, and it's an amazing story. Where I totally fangirled, but didn't. I'm very proud of myself. But they are amazing live. And I'm so heartbroken that the world, if you haven't seen them, you're not going to get to see them in all of their glory because Christine McVie isn't going to be there. Because it is truly an experience. This band, it puts on an amazing show. There's the way that they show themselves off and show each other off, and the way that they come together is really, really special. I think that's one of the reasons why they have done so well and they keep coming back together, is that even with all of their complaints about each other and all of the problems that they have, they know that when they get the 5 of them on stage, it becomes this truly magical experience. And it's not about a lot of pyrotechnics. It's not about like an amazing stage, although they have really cool stage set design and things like that. It's much more about these people singing their hearts out, playing their hearts out, but doing it with the people that cause them to feel that way, standing, feet away from them on the stage. It's really a special experience. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love The Dance so much. And so it's really cool that we're going to be able to get to talk about both this album and then them on stage in a more deeper sense on our Patreon side. So if you're interested in that, join our Patreon because that's going to be a fun discussion.
That's right. Yeah, that is going to be a fun discussion. And yeah, I'm glad you got to see, kind of the pieces that you did because it was just within the last couple of days, Stevie Nicks actually was doing an interview and she said she didn't think there was ever, sort of any scenario where they'd get back together with McVie's passing. And then there's been some kind of legal back and forth between Buckingham and the rest of the band here over the last 5 or 6 years. So I don't think there's probably going to be any more future Fleetwood Mac stuff here, at least, kind of with the remaining members of this grouping for sure, which makes it, all that much more tragic, but all that much more special that you get to see, and we got the music here from this group. So let us know at home what you think about Fleetwood Mac. Let us know what you think about Rumors, and let us know if you think it's the seventh greatest album of all time. If you agree with the Rolling Stone rating there, and let us know if you decide to whip up a Songbird cocktail because it was really good and a really fun one to have alongside of this album. So if you do that, send us pictures, send us your feedback, send us your comments, all that stuff on our social medias. That's at Drink the Movies on Instagram and X and Threads and Blue Sky and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. You can go to our website, www.drinkthemovies.com. That's where you're going to find recipes, pictures, all that good stuff, episode recaps, all those things. Go join us on Patreon, as Michaela mentioned, patreon.com/Drink the Movies. That's where you get bonus content. It's a great way to support the podcast. And if you want to just support the podcast, the best way possible, that is to like and subscribe and leave reviews for the podcast. Where can you do that, Michaela?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iHeartRadio. But you can find us in a lot of places. Anywhere you're listening to right now, there's a subscribe button. I promise. On your little rectangle, there's a button. If you're liking what you're hearing, we obviously are covering music at Drink the Music right now. We're really hoping that we can start to talk about movies again. But in the meantime, we're really enjoying this. And I hope you are too. If you are, hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, leave us a 5-star review, share us on social media because it really helps us bring together the love of music, movies, and cocktails to everyone.
Absolutely. So yeah, definitely appreciate everyone who does that. Everyone who's on our Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to us, and it's going to get us to do things like stop this recording and go talk about the dance. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up here for Rumors, Michaela. It's one of the all-time greats. So it was fun getting into and talking about it and learning all of this stuff about Fleetwood Mac. So that's been a good time. So I don't know. I guess that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Gold Dust Woman.
All right.
That's gonna end it from here. We're gonna end as on a fiery blaze, just like Rumors does. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink the Music. And I love you, I love you, I love you like never before.